the Rock 1, ATR2, and Ppo Extreme charts. And if anybody thinks I'm the genius that came up with these indicators, I'm just not that smart. And again, I'd like to acknowledge Arthur Hill over at trendinvestorpro.com for these three indicators. He does great quant analysis over there. And the Ppo Extreme horizontal lines and blue divergence arrow from price are my additions and interpretations of that indicator. And the Ppo Extreme is a great supplement to price, where it shows the peaks with these horizontal red lines going back to the COVID crash era and are still very valid today. So you can see the Ppo Extreme stopping at this 8.43% from zero level a couple of times, poked its nose above it there, went back down, tried it again a few more times, and then finally busted out of it. And now it's been in the 10 range between 8.43 and 13.13. It's been trying there a couple of times. You can see up here in the thumbnail, and I'm sure it will eventually bust out of there, but the question is when. It certainly wants to, it seems like. And you can see how insidious the shock and velocity of the COVID crash era was. Look at that Ppo Extreme way down here. And granted, we went through some extreme pain during that 2022 era, but it never did make it down there. It was trying for this 16 line just about here. Came down to this valley here during the COVID crash, and that was around in April. And that's when Powell and Company kicked in the QE4, I believe it was up to, whatever, QE, quantitative easing. And all it really did during that 2022 era was come up for some gulps of air and go back under. You can see the areas where it went above zero, so that's where that's judged on. It's based on zero. And I don't have it written up here in Arthur's original rules, but I'm considering positive volatility to be nonetheless volatility. You can see that coming out of this era, which was almost exactly 1 month, that the ATR2 had a huge spike, and the Rock 1 did go down to the pain threshold, which I added at -2. So the red line is the pain threshold, and the blue line is the euphoric state line. And the positive one is the positive volatility line, and as Arthur states up here, -1 is the negative volatility line. So you can see Friday it came really close to poking its nose above the positive volatility line at 0.99. ATR2 did go above it the day before that and has been above it. So this lasted 18 days since this last breach of the positive volatility line right there, and it came down and tested the negative volatility line here, but it didn't make it under, and that's been 18 days. And again, this was a full 30 trading days here, 18 trading days there. And there's the price line there. And some would say that the AD line and the price line are what you look at for divergences. So here the S&P 500 AD line is pointed straight up, and so is price. So some would consider that to be no divergence. However, my thoughts these days in these extreme times that we've been through since the COVID crash era, that you can use the AD line as a substitute for price and forget about looking at price when it comes to this divergence, for now at least. So the S&P AD line is well up beyond the exosphere and has made it into outer space there. And the stocks above their 20 simple moving average is up in the green zone, which is really nice, but you can see this is an unofficial indicator to be used for divergence, but nonetheless it's a divergence here, a negative divergence. And then the official indicators used to indicate divergences, which is MACD and RSI, show bearish divergences against the AD line up there. We'll look at that one more time. And on balance volume, and this is a ROC 50, so rate of change 50, unofficial. And you can see that the on balance volume has been going upwards trajectory, so a lot of investors on the sidelines are getting involved. And the ROC 50, rate of change 50, is pointed down, and that's an unofficial divergence indicator, but nonetheless is pointed down and tells us something. And anybody that's been following along with me for all these years now knows that during this 2022 era, I started using this as a trading tool for quick trades in and out. After a while, you could see the pattern up to the euphoric state line, then down to the pain threshold, and then get rid of it. Euphoric state line, pain threshold, euphoric state line, a lot of pain down here. Yeah, that was a really rough era back here, but it was at least something to do during that era when it scared most everybody away.